Welcome to the Borderless Podcast, your guide to traveling, investing, and living beyond borders, where we talk about living the life that you want to live, where you want to live it. From beautiful San Miguel de Allende, smack in the middle of Mexico, with your hosts, Jonathan Lockwood and James Guzman.
Welcome to the Borderless Podcast, traveling, investing, and living beyond borders. This is the podcast where we talk about interesting people doing interesting things in interesting places. We're coming to you from the Borderless compound in the high desert region of central Mexico, San Miguel de Allende to be exact. My name is Jonathan Lockwood. I'm here with James Guzman. How are you doing, James?
I'm feeling pretty interesting today. How about yourself?
You're feeling interesting?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. Very good.
I'm ready for the podcast, right?
Glad to know.
Yeah.
And so our guest today, we've been talking, I have been noticing since I've been intrigued by going to the site that shows us our podcast hits. And it's undeniable that when we do something on a region of interest, people love that podcast. A lot of people go to it. A lot of people
absolutely.
download.
Yeah, people are interested to know what different parts of the globe are like to live there, and all the residency requirements, and another thing is getting a second passport. People are interested in that. A way that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. $200,000 or something.
Yeah, for sure. And so we've done. We did Taiwan, we did Chile, we did Dominican Republic, we did
Uruguay,
Paraguay, and now today we're going to talk about a really hot country, Panama. And our guest today is Ray Evans. He is the CEO of Noble House Precious Metals Group in Panama, and he, with the help of his attorney wife, who is Panamanian and has two law firms there in Panama, helps people get residency in Panama. Welcome, Ray Evans, to the Borderless Podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So Ray, why don't you give us just the quick, sort of shorthand on you? Where are you from, and what brought you to Panama?
Okay, well, I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Northern Virginia, right on the outskirts, are the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Recently, about 10 years ago, I moved to Florida. And from Florida, I just started traveling throughout Central America, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Panama. And, I started to build connections here, and I met my wife, and about 5 years ago, decided to move down here and start a different life in Central America.
Okay. And how did you meet your wife?
Well, actually, I was down here, my first visit. I had an agenda to meet business-minded people in order to establish a business here. So my goal was to meet an attorney, a real estate agent, an accountant, and other successful businessmen. And I think in the airport, it just so happened that I met my wife, who happened to be an attorney. So, I just started to work and elaborate with her about building business or working with the expansion of the canal. And everything just sort of clicked from there.
All right.
That's nice. Well, I think I heard that you help her translate things. Is that right?
Yes, well, she speaks very good Spanish, and one thing that I was telling John before is that even when Panamanian professionals do speak English and Spanish, are they bilingual? Like my wife, in her case, her English is very good, but a lot of the Northern American or English-speaking clients prefer to speak with someone
a native
English
speaker.
is a main speaker. I mean, they tend to relate a bit more and are able to help navigate through all the tedious hoops of obtaining a residency or any type of business that requires legal action to accomplish in Panama.
Yeah,
So
that's cool. I was just asking because, I guess that means that you already spoke Spanish. Is that right?
Well, my Spanish is not very well.
Okay.
My Spanish is not very fluent at all. Typically, like I said, as a representative, I typically work with the English-speaking clients rather than the Spanish-speaking clients. So I focus on the English-speaking clients, and then, most of the attorneys there are very fluent in English. But I kind of qualify the client, make sure it's what they want to do. So you don't really waste the time of the lawyer, because what I have a lot of people who really just want information.
Oh, for sure. They're
and,
just
and
people
they're not really
who are kicking tires.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, people, I spend a lot of time with these people, at a time that the attorneys are not going to waste their time doing, just sending out information. So I serve as sort of a liaison
Right.
to
Got you.
qualify people and make sure that they know the prices and the procedures, and if they want to go ahead with the whole process and want to go from A to Z.
So not only are you helping the English-speaking clients very much, and there is something lost in the translation, otherwise, but you're also helping your wife's firm very much in weeding out some of the people who aren't going to end up being clients.
Exactly. Like you said, you have a lot of people here who are just information seekers. They sit on the fence and they're not really sure about what they want to do. I don't know if it's price shock or, people didn't realize it was going to take so much work, which is really not a lot of work. When you compare to other countries, what they require for a permanent residency visa, I think that Panama is fairly lenient and very reasonable price for, getting the job done. It's very reasonably priced.
Right.
And you look at
so let's. I just wanted to talk to you. Could you share with us what is it? Why is Panama such a hot spot right now of interest for people who are interested in getting residency in another country?
Well, I think it kind of reached its peak, and it's kind of on a gradual level right now. I don't think it was as hot as it was during the last presidential administration. Mm-hmm. However, tourism and the economy continues to grow here, and tourism continues to grow. So, yeah, it is still a hot spot. Why is it such a hot spot? I think that it's a lot of tax incentives for buying property. People who want to get their money offshore. The U.S. dollar is a big factor. You don't have to deal with currency conversion like to colones or pesos or bolivar or any other thing. It's dollar to dollar, even though the national currency is the Balboa, is always 1-to-1 ratio. That's very attractive because people can transfer their money always on a 1-to-1 ratio. They never worry about currency exchange. Another high point are, like I said, buying properties. There are a lot of tax incentives with buying properties, whether it's commercial property or, just residential property. You get a lot of tax breaks. And like I said, Panama is very cosmopolitan. You have a lot of people, and it has a lot of American influence here, being that, the Americans are the U.S. I call it North Americans because we're all Americans here. But right. The U.S. has occupied Panama, for almost 100 years, from, I think, 1904 to 2000. So, there's a lot of influence, a lot of American influence. So the people are used to North Americans, and they're used to the U.S. And so you'll find a lot of the influence that comes from the U.S. is here. So I think it's very attractive, and people feel more comfortable being in Panama than other Central American or South American countries.
So let's talk about the Friendly Nations visa, because
right.
This is the thing that has a lot of people interested, correct?
Exactly, yes.
And what is the Friendly Nations visa?
Well, essentially, the Friendly Nations visa is a visa that about 50 different nations can get based on bringing business here to Panama. Some of the main requirements are, of course, you have to do the setup of a corporation or a foundation in Panama, along with a Panamanian bank account that holds at least $5,000, which, you can take out after it's verified. A lot of other things are required. Some other things, just having everything fully authenticated by the U.S. Department of State or the Secretary of State from where you live, police report records. But the main thing is to establish either a Panamanian foundation corporation or own Panamanian property in order to qualify.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can qualify for the Friendly Nations visa if you are working for a registered company in Panamanian as a full-time employment, or you're enrolled in school. There's various different options. That's why I qualify my customers to see what they're aiming for to qualify for that that Friendly Nations visa, or the proper name for it is nationals of specific countries.
Gotcha.
And right now there's about 50 countries on that list.
Okay. It so happens I have a little bullet point list here with reference to this visa. And like you said, number one is that you have to open a Panamanian bank account with $5,000 minimum deposit. It has to be more if you have dependents, an extra $2,000. You have to register a Panamanian company of some sort, as you said, either a foundation. You can also own property. You must provide a clean police report from the country of your citizenship and or country of residence in the past 2 years. You must provide a clean health certificate, and you must apply in person at the immigration office. So these are the things that you need, and a lot of those things are the things that the individuals are going to have to get to someone like you if they're going to get this ball rolling. Isn't that right?
Exactly. And, I try to make the procedure very simple, even if you're starting it from abroad. Like if I work with a lot of clients that are starting it via the mail system, so we can get started and get the ball rolling before your actual visit here, which saves a tremendous amount of time because a lot of people do not have their paperwork authenticated properly when they come down here. So they find themselves having to go to the embassy, the U.S. embassy here, which only takes appointments like once a week. And, it could be very tedious. So it's better just to get all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, get everything authenticated when you're in the U.S. and bring everything down here properly in a timely manner. Because if documents go beyond 3 months, they require another copy.
So we talk a lot about planting flags here, and Panama, it appears to me, is a really great place to plant a flag because for one reason, there is zero tax on foreign income in Panama, which is not the case in most countries, correct?
Well, I'm not a tax advisor. I don't know what it is. I would assume so.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're not tax advisors either. That's one of the things that I think our listeners will find as they start looking into the advantages of Panama, is that Panama is a country where you can live and have a business not in Panama. Obviously, if you're doing business in Panama, you're expected to pay taxes. But if you're not doing business in Panama, it is one of those countries that will not tax you on foreign income. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of listeners to this program will be excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, there's a number of different tax benefits. Like I said, we also work with a number of different accountants that show you the best way to maximize your stay in Panama. If you're coming here for business, if you're coming here and you're looking for some tax incentives, I work with a number of different accountants that are very well versed in the Panamanian tax law, as well as a couple of Panamanian attorneys in the U.S. That I work with. They can also advise you for following the tax code in the U.S. and do everything by the book. So, when people get the ball rolling, I just always say do the basics first.
Yeah. Evan, that sounds great. So for $5,000, which you're not losing, you're just putting that in the bank, you can come down there. This is permanent residency, correct?
Well, yeah, Panama permanent residency.
Well,
yes.
That's good. Yeah. So, and then do they get that relatively, as soon as they go to the office pretty quickly if they come there?
Well, no, there's a certain procedure that has to be filled out to verify your bank account, and verify that you have $5,000 in it. Depending on which bank it is, national banks are always a bit cheaper, are more fluent to go through than private banks. For instance, when I did mine, I went through the National Bank of Panama. And so it was fairly easy. But when you have a bank account, verifying and getting everything authenticated and notarized here, it's a bit more tedious, but, it can get done. All the money is just to verify. It's not like they're actually using the money. They just want to verify that you have an active account with a sufficient amount of money in it. And that amount is $5,000 starting. And I believe about $2,000 for each dependent.
My question was more about, so once you get there, how quickly will it be to attain, if you have that, and that somebody has already spoken with you and they've gotten all that in order, about how long does it take for them to be there in order for them to get permanent residency?
Once we have the file started, we recommend, come to Panama, within the next 4 weeks, so things don't get expired or, the stamps don't expire and you have to do everything again. So We recommend about 5 to 10 business days. I mean, give it about 10 business days. And in that process, we'll start your paperwork going for the initial interview of the immigration office, get your cardnet issued, and, get the ball rolling, get your physical done in Panama. There's also some other procedures of you have to go to the Minister of Finance office and say you don't owe any fines in Panama. There's a lot of things that are like milk and cranny things that aren't mentioned on the Panama website that have to be done exactly like they say it. So it's not really a strenuous, impossible process, but it is very tedious, and getting everything done in a timely manner. That's why 5 days is typically on a fast process, but I recommend at least a two-week stay here. And then you can exit, and then we'll take care of everything, and then return upon your next trip to get issued your cedula or your Panamanian ID for permanent residence.
That sounds pretty good, pretty straightforward. So in addition to the $5,000, which they'll get back, they are going to have to incur some fees. What's a kind of a roundabout number for what someone's going to have to pay to get a permanent residency?
We're including a lot here, because there's a lot of notarizations that have to be done here. There's a lot of authentications that have to be done. As the applicant, you're responsible for getting all your authentications done in the U.S., whether it's through the U.S. Department of State's office or the U.S. Secretary of State office for your particular state. Federal forms have to be sent into Sterling, Virginia by the U.S. Department of State's office in Sterling, Virginia, no matter what. Any federal document, federal police reports, FBI checks have to be authenticated there. Now, things like birth certificates, marriage certificates, and other authentications can be authenticated by the Secretary of State's office in the state of which you reside, okay? Or wherever that form was originated. So if a form was originated, say, for instance, in Oregon, it has to be authenticated in Oregon. Okay. You understand?
Right. So the individual's job is they're responsible for all of the stuff that they need to do. You'll tell them how they need to do it, but they've got to get it to you.
I tell them how to do it because most won't know how to do it.
Right.
But I can't get work done.
Exactly.
In Panama, through the United States. They have to be responsible for getting all the authentications done through the U.S. and brought here in a timely manner within 90 days, so they don't expect.
Is one of the first steps helping them set up a bank account? Do you actually help them do that?
Well, that doesn't really come to later. I recommend getting the ball rolling. If you don't have a Panama corporation or you don't own Panama property, those are the first two things that are going to qualify you.
I see.
And so get the ball rolling on that. That's something I can do without you having to come to Panama. The bank account is something that you have to be present to do in order to come to Panama. So, we can work on that simultaneously while you're here doing the interview at the immigration office.
I gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So the ball gets rolling before they come to Panama. I wasn't clear on that. My apologies. I probably missed that. And then when they get to Panama, one of the first things that you help them do is set up a bank account, right?
Yeah, along with the interview. Like I said, their file will already be in place when they get down here, which saves a lot of time. So getting the ball rolling or, getting the file started is the prerequisite, because there's no need in coming down here if the paperwork's not in order, because you're just going to wind up going back disappointed because they'll turn you away very quickly. And, so that's why I specify 100 times to my clients, come down here, do things from A to Z exactly like I tell you, and we can get it done within 6 months. You go lollygagging around, it could take years, a couple of years, And that's another thing once I specify. Typically, we say up to 6 months. If you do the process correctly, we're not like the other law firms. We don't require your money all up at front. Typically, for this process, for one person, we'll charge about, like I said, anywhere from $2,800 to $3,500, depending on the situation. If you have additional family members or dependents or that you want to bring down, a spouse, we can work those rates in for additional costs, like around anywhere from, $1,200 to $1,800, depending on if they're adults or children. So, we're willing to work on those prices. We say up to 6 months.
Right.
Okay, so you're paying gradually on the remaining. So we only want 50% down to start the work, and then you pay the outstanding balance as the work is getting done. Right. So that way you ensure that the work is going to get done, which is the most important part, because a lot of attorneys won't complete the work for you. And that's the main problem. Okay, so once we complete the work and you're issued your Panama residency card or your cedula, then after that, you wait 5 years, and then the citizenship. You can apply for the citizenship in 5 years.
This is what I wanted to talk about. And this is the thing that makes it particularly amazing to me, because I don't know of another country that has this. But ordinarily in these countries, if you're going to work towards citizenship, it may be 5 years, it may be a little less. In some places it's 3 or 4, but you're required to stay there most of the months of the year. And I believe what you told me yesterday, were you able to look into this? As long as you return to Panama within 2 years, you're good?
No, as long as you don't leave the country and you don't stay outside for more than 2 years, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't stay outside the country of Panama for more than 2 years?
Once you have your permanent residency card.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that sounds pretty easy. Right. Okay.
So as long as you return, before every 24 months, at least if you return every 23 months, you're fine.
And I might want to return a lot more than that. From what I understand, Panama is cool.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, it's a very fun city. I mean, if you're single and you're into that, I mean, you can go downtown and act a fool. I mean, maybe, I'm married now, but hey, I mean, before I was married, I used to fly down here and enjoy the city. But
tell us more about that, Ray Evans. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing you. But I do want to get into what can be seen as the positives and the negatives. And why don't we, there are a number of people who listen to the Borderless podcast all over the world, but a really high percentage of them are people from the U.S. And so if you can picture your friends in the U.S. and they're like, well, why might I go to Panama? What would be some positives about the country of Panama?
Well, I come from a military family. My parents always traveled the world, Germany, Japan, France, so I've never traveled. I never got a chance to travel like that. By the time I was born, we were stationed. And so I grew up around the metropolitan area. So what I would say the benefits are, just seeing the world, especially traveling from Florida. You can get cheap flights. So, like I said, a flight from Miami is about $150 each way. So, round trip, that's $300. The streets are very safe. I mean, it's a very safe country. Those are some of the incentives. The police are everywhere. A lot of American adaptation from the U.S. is here, so it's kind of familiar. This place looks like a mini Miami in Central America. So, you have a lot of the popular stores and a lot of the popular infrastructure here, but also understand that this is still developing Central America. This is Central America being developed. And it's still, like I said, a lot of people may get off on saying that, okay, well, Panama is an American province, but it's not, and I think that's what the downfall is. A lot of people expecting that, like going to Hawaii or Puerto Rico or some other, but this is not an American province anymore. Right. It's not occupied. So that's the downfall, that I think a lot of these retired Northern Americans come down here expecting things to be very convenient. Even though it looks like that on the outside, the infrastructure is still Central and Latin America. So, you have a lot of bad roads, a lot of traffic in the city, very congested, very humid. So I think a lot of retirees like going out to the better places on the outskirts of the city.
Right.
Some of those places are Coronado, which is a bit more expensive, Playa Blanca, which is very expensive too. So a lot of Northern Americans, retireds and expats, like to move way up in the mountains. The climate is a bit different there. Here, you're talking about 87 to 92 degree days every day in the city. During the rainy season, is very muggy and humid. When you head north up into the mountains of Boquete in the district of Cherokee, or David in Cherokee, you tend to have a cheaper property, lower temperatures, more of a friendly expat community as opposed to being in a city where people are just movers and shakers all day long, just
cool,
tight, congested traffic. So in the city, it's very expensive to live. When you go out to the beaches along Coronado, it can get very costly to live out there. But, economically, like I said, I've started a couple communities out here for, just some of my clients who want to buy property. In the districts of Veraguas, Panama has about 11 different provinces. Mm-hmm. Our districts, which they call them. Up in the district of Veraguas is where, I sell parcels of land that are very, reasonably priced for those who just want a small, 1 acre land to build a house that's not too costly. So, you have a wide variety of different aspects in Panama. It's a relatively small country, only 30,000 square miles, maybe 3.5 million people. But, there's a lot of differences that go on from all the way north, right at the Costa Rican border, all the way to the Colombian border. It's just very different throughout the country. You'll go into some native areas, or you'll be in Panama City where things are very updated or modern, but it's still the city.
Right.
But the infrastructure is very overall Latino.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. So these areas that you describe, when you talk about the city, we're talking about Panama City. And you've already told us that the weather is generally quite hot and humid. But you say as you go north. So I'm looking at a map right now. And there's
it kind of squiggles north. It goes west and up north.
Yeah, I'm looking at
like an S.
Okay, goes west and then north. Oh, I see. So that's up by where you see Boquete, like you were talking about, right?
Yes, in the province of Cherokee. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so west and north, and the weather there. How would you describe that? What is it? Very humid there, less humid.
You're from Detroit. You know how fall is.
Yeah.
Fall, I would say, is more like, it depends on how far up you go, because it can get hot in David. But when you turn off and go up north, like towards Costa Rica, you're going kind of in the mountains, in a mountain community. So though it could be quite warm during the day, the nights are a bit cooler. And I think that most northerners from Northern America like that, more so than sweating all day, even where the nights are hot in Panama City, So, it's a bit cooler now because you have pretty much 8 months of rain now. It's kind of like the wet season. Not constant rain, but it is the wet season. So it tends to be a few degrees cooler during the wet season than the dry season, which generally starts in April.
Okay, well, Ray, we're going to get back to this. We've got a number of other questions we want to ask you, but we need to take just a moment for our sponsor. Today's Borderless podcast being brought to you by the Condescending Group, your universal resource in feeling great about yourself for no good reason. Recently, the Condescending Group was very vocal in their contempt for an arts and crafts book that shows children how to make rubber band guns. Although it's true that for many people, they've enjoyed the fun of shooting rubber bands at each other, the Condescending Group says it's a completely different thing when you do so with the use of something that resembles a GUN. This caused some concern for some of their followers, since to many it might not seem to make a difference whether a rubber band was shot by a finger or a piece of plastic shaped as a gun, but no, says the Condescending Group staff columnist Penelope Winningham. Quote, guns bad. Real guns, toy guns, Pop-Tart guns, rubber band guns. I know it doesn't always make sense, but guns bad, you guys. It really is hard to argue with logic like that. For more of the same, just go to thecondescendinggroup.com. The Condescending Group, they care more than you. Okay, we're back with Ray, our Panama guy. So give us an idea. Like, let's say you're a 30-year-old single guy who works from your laptop, and you go ahead and you just decide you like the life in Panama City. What could you get? And I know there's going to be a range. There's always a range. But what is the range that you could get for like a one-bedroom apartment?
We have a one-bedroom. Well, actually, I have a two-bedroom in the city that we rent. It's about, I don't know, for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, maybe, 70 square meter apartment, you know, 700 square foot apartment, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. We charge 700 for that in the heart of the city, but that's like an older building.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
if you're very frugal, like the persons that we rent this to, they don't have kids. They're just single men, like you said, young men in the city working, it's fairly economical in the older buildings. Now, if you go to a newer building, like, I have clients that are buying in Punta Pacifica, which is right by the Trump Towers,
Oh, okay.
and, so I have a couple apartments there for rent, and, I charge double that for that,
Oh, okay.
so it could double, for a 1 bedroom. It depends on the location. So, but you can still be in a relatively safe neighborhood for $700 a month, but
Well,
just
not
not all the luxurious amenities. You don't have workout room or tennis courts or a pool outside. But
Well, that's pretty good to live in a big city. For $700 a month is not bad at all.
Yeah, you can find those apartments. If you're used to a bit basic living, it's not bad living, but it's just older buildings. Depending, some of the newer projects are more expensive. Some of the older buildings you can get a better deal on.
Okay, another thing that a lot of people ask about is the price of land. There are a lot of people that are interested in buying land, maybe building themselves something in the future. It sounds like you are involved in selling land, and again, I know that there's a range, but maybe per hectare, what normally is a price that you can get maybe outside, some of the places outside of the city that you're talking about?
Well, per acre, like these 1 acre lots, I mean, I'm selling those 1 acre lots for as low as $5 a square meter, which is about $25,000 a lot, a 1 acre lot, right?
Okay.
So I would say 5,000 square meter lots. Well, 1 acre is about a little bit over 4,000 square meters. So I would say, a hectare, if you want to put it in terms of acres or hectares, for $20,000 to $25,000, you can buy one of these lots, 1 acre lots for about $25,000. And, you can construct a small cottage through a building technique that we have that's called M3 construction building, which are basically modular homes. Small 100 square meter homes built for around $25,000. So say you can have, but this is up in the province of Veraguas. So this is not as expensive. So you're not talking about getting something like this in the city or in Coronado. This is way up, like en route to Cherokee. So you're talking about one of the lesser populated provinces, but very secluded, very safe, supermarkets and malls. But just not in the city. So you're looking for those prices as you go west up towards Cherokee, you see?
Okay.
So
the price that you gave us, something like $25,000 for a tract of land, I thought at first you said a hectare and then you said an acre.
Well, an acre, I sell them in acre lots, which are more reasonable because roughly they're 5,000, so it's a little bit more than an acre, just like an acre and 0.5 meters or whatever, 0.500 meters or whatever. But they're generally about 1 acre lots, 5,000 square meter lots, $5 per square meter at $25,000 for the total lot. Now you can buy more. You can buy an acre or a hectare, as many as you want.
Right.
But I just think it's very attractive, because we started a community called Ecoville. You can go to the website, ecoville.com. And basically what my clients wanted were eco-villages and constructed up in the mountains. They wanted to start an eco-community. So what we did, we secured about 20 hectares of land in the mountains of Santa Fe, Veraguas, along the river. Mountain land, self-sustaining land, where we can sell lots and also construct your home as you buy the lot. So you can get that lot along with a home built for, around $50,000, pretty much,
Coronado, if somebody had more money and they wanted to rent a place there for a year or two. What might they find? What would the range be?
Well, on Playa Bonita, I work with some agents out there. On Playa Bonita, you get you a nice 1 or 2 bedroom condo for about $1,000 a month.
Okay, cool. And Playa Blanca.
And Playa Blanca, correct? Yes.
That would also be that amount.
Coronado District is right by there. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. So now we've talked about a lot of the positive things about it. I mean, I know why I consider Panama to be very positive as far as the lack of restriction, as far as foreign business and stuff like that. But I also wanted to ask you, what would be perceived as negatives? Now, you've touched on them here and there, but from a U.S. perspective, what are maybe the top 3 negatives about moving to Panama?
Well, like I said, the getting things done is very tedious, and it's not a cut and dry process, nor is it a user-friendly process in anything that you do involving any bureaucracy in Panama. Whether it's the immigration office, the Tribune Electoral, where you're going to have to get your IDs issued, or go to various notarization offices, or going to the National Bank. Nothing is done efficiently nor quickly here. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that you have to be aware of, that things do not move efficiently in Panama. It's not a user-friendly. There's no number system. Like we go to the DMV now and we can get through things quickly. Mm-hmm. Things here prepare all day to get things done.
Wow, if the DMV in the States is quickly, then that must be really slow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an all-day event. I used to go to that immigration office sometimes and just dread going there because it is very, so don't get frustrated. So that's number one. Number two, just the infrastructure in general, checking into a 5-star hotel and there's no hot water, or, something is out, the electricity is out, or there's no running water at all, let alone, and here you are paying $120 a night for the hotel, and there's bad customer service.
I gotcha.
You're looking around like, okay, well, I'm paying this X amount of money for this, and no one gives a damn about giving me a discount or anything. They just act like it's normal. This is Panama. This is the way things are.
Right.
Number 3, getting around the city. But there's ways around that. The older people don't generally deal with it. But the humidity and the congestion of getting around the city, it makes it almost impossible to drive a car during midday throughout the weekdays.
I see.
Do they have public transportation in the city?
Well, yeah, the subway just got done, and that's one of the perks. The subway got done last year, so they're expanding on the subway, which I thought was never going to get finished, but it surprised the hell out of me. It actually runs efficiently. Mm-hmm. The busing system is a bit primitive because you have these older school buses on the road where, people pay 25 cents to get on. The newer system of the metro is trying to wean its way in. But, I don't think that there's enough buses to support that. So you have a lot of people just riding around on old school buses to get to work and stuff like that. Cab drivers are crazy in the road. The roads are crazy, potholes, and, but, it's Latin America. Like I said, for Central America is about as good as it gets. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like I said, from Guatemala to Costa Rica, or from Guatemala to Panama, you would want to be in Panama, and even compared to Colombia and Venezuela, or, most South American countries that I've heard of, this is the better of them to be in, second richest in Central America to Chile.
Okay. That's cool. That thank you for that perspective and that comparison.
Yeah, there's a lot of money flowing through here.
Right, yeah. There's that too. But nobody will accuse you of sugarcoating Panama here, Ray Evans. You've done a good, you've done a very honest job of representing it, I think. So let's talk about cost of living without reference to housing. Housing often gives you an idea, but what about just things in general? What's about the same as the U.S.? What's more and what's less?
Well, John, I can never understand this, and I've tried to figure it out for 5 years. I don't know how people survive here. The minimum wage is $416 a month still, in a nation where everything is just as expensive here at your grocery markets as it is in any major city in the U.S.
Right.
I never understand that. I just went grocery shopping today, got a handful of items. I don't think there's, it's $50. A handful of items. Gas is just as expensive. Electronics are as expensive. Now, you do have your discount stores. You have your markets and, your farmers markets where you can buy your fruits and your fish from the market if you want. But, as far as shopping commercially, at the malls or at the strip malls, going to the major supermarket outlets, you're looking at equal prices to any major city. I think, as a matter of fact, I just got back from Washington, D.C., and, I was having a field day at Walmart, compared to here. You're not going to get Walmart prices here.
I see. Yeah.
On anything.
I think that might have a lot to do with what you're just saying, that it's becoming the kind of Hong Kong of Latin America, right? And a lot of banks are coming there, a lot of high-paid career people are there in the finance industry, and I think that's pretty interesting. There seems to be a lot of not only opportunity but ways that people can invest if they're looking at living in Latin America or setting up residency or something. Having a bank account in Panama is probably a good choice.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty easy once you get it set up. They're pretty easy to conduct business. The hardest part is getting everything set up. Foreign interests are going to be very scrutinized because of money laundering, and there's a lot of money laundering going on here. So, like I said, just have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, and everything should be okay. I think that the expense is very expensive, I think, to live here. I really cannot figure out how people survive here. I guess people just all stick together. You'll find, two income families, both working, and maybe a grandparent or something like that living in the house. But when you're foreign and you come over here, I don't think that they're going to change I don't think that they're going to change the minimum wage here, because that's what attracts foreign business to this country, because of the cheap labor. It's just like India or China. If they can pay someone $2.50 an hour to do, like Dell is here. You have 3M is here. A couple other big investors from America are here. I forgot what's the other big call center. But there's several of them. Yeah,
that's the same thing here in Mexico. You have a lower cost of labor, so a lot of big companies come there. So about opening up the bank account, has this FACTA, has that played a big role? I mean, have people had trouble opening bank accounts there?
Well, of course, yeah, because people think that they can just open one and just come here and open something. I never understood that. Here, I'm here. I'm married to a Panamanian, and I have a kid here. I've been here for 5 years, and, they'll still scrutinize me, and I have a residence here, so I don't understand why people think it's easy. But let me tell you, the easiest way to get a bank account here and someone working on your behalf is if you were to open up a corporation. That's the easiest way. Now, with one of the commercial banks, if you have a Panamanian corporation and you want to open up a corporate bank account with you as the primary on the bank account, that will also qualify as well. Secondly, as a personal bank account, either a national bank, or one of the smaller banks that aren't as prevalent, like I usually recommend a Mexican bank called Banco Azteca.
Really? We have those right here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. So Banco Azteca is very easy. I usually go there if my clients want a personal account. They meet one of the attorneys at the bank, and we'll follow through everything for them. So, but a lot of clients come here thinking that they're going to get a bank account with HSBC Panama or Scotiabank. One of the global bank or something like that, where they can do international banking and stuff like that. But it can happen, like I said, if they follow the procedure. open up a Panamanian corporation, bring their references from other banks. That's one thing that I really strictly apply. Bring references from other banks. Bring utility bills in your name, phone bills. Bring a lease in your name if you have a mortgage in your name. If you can bring anything verifying that you are a stable, credible person that can manage a bank account here effectively without any embezzlement or laundering, then that's the easiest way to go about it. So people think that they can just call me up and open up a bank account and send me that doesn't happen anymore in Panama. It may have used to happen. It doesn't happen anymore. I can tell you that. So it's a lot of things. And believe me, like we talked about yesterday, John, these things, like we were talking about the friendly nations visa, these tax incentives, all this, I say is not very user-friendly now, but compared to the rest of the world, like, New Zealand is a big hot spot now. Everybody's trying to get New Zealand passports or, what's the other one? Dominican Republic. Well, these things are going to cost you $20,000 and up. Right. So, when you're looking at Panama, even though I say it's not user friendly and I may criticize it, but it's the best that this part of the world has to offer. I think.
Yeah. Well, fantastic, and that's why we've got you on here. It's been too late in coming that we're finally getting somebody on about Panama. Why don't you tell us just cover this for us? Try your best to tell us about security, safety throughout the primary regions in Panama where people might be thinking about going or living.
Well, like I said, the police have increased definitely throughout the new administration. I feel safe walk. As a matter of fact, I think police supervision is a bit too strenuous here. Right. I think people are monitored like children here. It's like even outside of my home, I live in one of the newer developments out here by the airport. And, after 8 o'clock, I have to show my ID, not to leave my neighborhood, but just to leave the community and get on the main road and come back. I didn't notice this many police here, and I thought the police here were very prevalent. I would be sitting out in front of a restaurant, just coming out of it, and I'll be asked for my ID, or I've been stopped by police more than I ever have in my life. And saying, growing up in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, on the outskirts and military bases, I don't think that I've ever been, questioned or ID'd or scrutinized by the police as much as I have here.
Really? Well,
never.
Some might consider that a negative. For instance, are
you sure you're trying to talk people into getting your services, or is this a sales pitch? I can't tell.
No, I appreciate it. Go on. What were you going to say?
Just being honest, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just being honest with people. Not saying that the police are. It's Latin America. Like I said, police will.
That doesn't happen here where I live.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about San Miguel is that if you're an expat, they won't even look at you.
If they see that you're not from here and that you're kind of oblivious, they're going to probably want a handout more than they try to get you in trouble. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Nothing that a $10 bill or a $20 bill won't solve is what I'm trying to say. And that's typically what they want. Police were making $400 to $500 a month. So, if they can shake down a gringo and get some extra cash, of course, I've done it myself. I've tipped a police officer a 10 or a 20, but just out of my face.
I thought you meant you've shaken down gringos before, Ray.
Well, it happens here, but that's why I'm saying the police are here, but that's not. I don't think that they're very. In the States, police are a bit aggressive.
Yeah, I see.
And they're a bit intimidating. Here, the police can be intimidating, but ultimately, they just want either a handout or to feel like they're doing their job, Okay. And so, but even though the presence is here, if I was out of line or somebody else was way out of line, believe me, there's going to be a police there to get things in check, like a paddy wagon full of police. So you're talking about security. I think that I feel safe just about anywhere I go, even when I go to the bad neighborhoods at night. Sometimes I may wind up in a bad neighborhood on the way home, but I don't feel threatened, because I know there's a police right there doing alcohol checks somewhere.
I'd feel threatened by the police.
Yeah, well, not here. I mean, I just overcame it. I feel more threatened by U.S. police than I do police.
Well, I think I get what you're saying because, I mean, what James and I like about the town where we live is it seems to us that the police have been told, don't mess with the expats because it's such a big expat community. And so they honest to God, don't even seem to want to make eye contact with me. I've been driving around without a license plate on my car for 6 months and nobody even says anything.
Well, it's not, I mean, it's not just that. I don't want to give people the idea that, the expats just do whatever they want to. I mean, the cops in San Miguel are very nice in general, and they're not running. I mean, okay, so before I lived here, I lived in Acapulco. There is probably a similar presence to what you're talking about in Panama. Gotcha. They had people with trucks and big guns and stuff like that. Over here, that's just not the case, and it's more like what's this Barney Fife type of cop or something like that around here, So, anyways, even to the locals. So, anyways,
right.
Well, like I said, I don't feel very threatened. I mean, there's several types of police that you're going to see. There is tourist police here. Mm-hmm. There are a special police force here that rides around on motorcycles. They're like the special police. I mean, if something really happens, they're riding around here. They don't bother you. Okay. There's the Metro Police or the Metropolitan Police or the City Police. It's just like you have different levels of police, and you just will learn to know which ones could be, a pain in the ass or which ones just will leave you alone. Typically, you have these inspectors, these auto inspectors that want to make sure your license is in order, and I've pushed one of those guys before. I just pushed him out of my way. He tries to be a police officer. I just pushed him. I wouldn't push an officer in the United States. I mean, and so I get away with a lot because I'm a U.S. I mean, when I would never show my Panamanian ID, my Panamanian card, even if I had. I always show my U.S. passport. And that usually gets you a get out of jail free card. I see. It really does. I mean, I think that I wouldn't have gotten away with some of the things I've gotten away with, if I didn't hold, I've been caught a couple times, one too many beers, and it's just like, go ahead, go home, it's just like, I don't think that I would get that type of treatment if I was a citizen, because I see how they treat citizens. And believe me, the U.S. passport does give you a bit of credibility. Okay. It does. I mean, I'm going to play that card if I got it, if I can. Sure. I'm the dumb tourist. I didn't know. Excuse me. Right. I won't do it again. I'm sorry. That type of stuff. All right. But and I find that most cops will work with you. I mean, I've even offered bribes and they wouldn't take it. And not all police are military style. The Turismo police are, they're there to look out for the tourists. Then the special police are look out for major crimes. Or you have the Metro Police that are looking out for traffic incidents, the traffic police, the inspectors. So you just kind of fill out. But overall, to answer your question, I do feel, technically it's safer than being in the U.S. Technically. Right. It's safer than being in the U.S.
Right. Okay. And so you've answered that very well. Now we got to go, but I want to give you a shot here to just take a moment and tell me what you're involved in with Noble House Precious Metals Group. What do you do?
Well, with Noble House, we do asset conversion, giving people a way to hedge against inflation by using monetized gold and silver. By what I mean by monetized is LBMA approved, London Bullion Market approved gold and silver products. Also COMEX, New York Stock Exchange, or New York Mercantile Exchange approved gold and silver. Our distribution is Valcombi out of Switzerland, which if no one knows what Valcombi is, they're the same company that supplies gold and platinum for Rolex watches. So we issue monetized gold and silver through our outlet, Noble House Precious Metals Group. We are a registered company here in Panama. And it's asset management, basically using gold and silver, monetized gold and silver. A lot of my clients come to Panama. They want a way out of the U.S. dollar or the the euro, and we buy and sell physical gold and silver to our clients, and we also offer storage, anonymous private delivery if you prefer. But typically that's what Noble House is all about. Setting up offshore trust and foundations to help you secure your assets and your wealth.
Fantastic. Well, Ray, thanks so much for that, because you could have talked all this hour all about that, but you kindly talked to us about what we wanted to talk about, which is residency in Panama. So my appreciation for that.
Okay, well, we're at Noble House. If anyone wants to email me, I'm at 23gold@facebook.com, 23gold@facebook.com. I'm open to answer any questions. If you want to, talk about residency or offshore asset protection, property in Panama, some of the projects that we're involved in, whether it's the eco communities or, anything, in general, we do consulting. We also have tourist packages, we can offer visits, through Randy and VIP tours here. That we can, also arrange for a tour. If people want to come here and test the waters and see how they like it, it's like anything else. Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. But at the first glance, you have to love it. Especially in the interior, it's beautiful there by the oceans, especially on the Pacific side. If you go up to Bocas del Toro or down in San Blas, the scenery is magnificent. Some of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen in my life. So, they're very much positives, but this is still Latin America, and, it's not the U.S. And it took me a long time to realize that. And, it's like when in Rome, do as the Romans.
Right. Well, Ray Evans, thank you very much for being our guest today on the Borderless podcast.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so it was good to finally get somebody on here from Panama.
Yeah, absolutely. He's he's somebody that's come recommended. So, we'll put his contact information for precious metal storage and also getting a Panamanian residency and citizenship in the members area. Well, in the show notes of this show, but also we'll keep that in the members area. We have a kind of a contacts list that we're building up there for the Borderless Society. So
yes, and thank you, Randy Hilarski, for putting me in touch with Ray. So again, Panama sounds like a great deal to me. I don't know of another situation, do you, James, where you can get the ball rolling by establishing residency. You do not have to live there. If what he is saying is correct, and he seemed to be very informed about this, you just have to make sure you cannot be outside of Panama for more than 2 years. You just have to go back like every year or two, something like that. Keep the ball rolling, and then in 5 years you can apply for citizenship and get your passport. Yeah,
it sounds like a great piece of the puzzle. A great flag that you can implement in your strategy. And he had some kind of critical things to say about Panama, but I'm willing to bet I could go down there and have a ball. So
yeah, but then he came in and said, yeah, but compared to every other South American or Central American country, it's probably better than almost all of them. Yeah. So that was his perspective there. But, by the way, the one thing to keep in mind, Bobby Casey had brought up to me about this option as well. But he said, look, if you're interested in getting involved in this Friendly Nations visa, understand that this was something established by the prior administration, who was very pro, bring in new residents and start business here. The new guy, not so much. And although nobody's saying anything for sure, the new guy might end this. Yeah. They're looking that is a possibility. So if you're interested in this, you might want to get rolling on it from what we hear.
Yeah, at least you'd be grandfathered in, hopefully, or something. The thing with these, regime changes and stuff, and it's the same all throughout the world, and there's nothing you could do about it as long as we have these governments that dictate the rules like this, then, we're beholden to them. So exactly. we have to do the best we can.
Right. Okay. So we hope you benefited from that. Go to borderlesspodcast.com and click on the...
Yeah, so there's an instant access button. Get on there. You'll get on our email list. You'll immediately get access to our free Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. We all get on there and you can talk with other people all over the world. And then if you're really ready to take the next step, you can join the Borderless Society. We've got contacts like the one we just spoke to from all over the world. We also have a forum with all kinds of people and there's a course there about making money online, setting up bank accounts online, buying real estate in other countries, a checklist to buy foreign real estate, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a basic video course that gets updated every month. So, join us.
Okay. Another Borderless podcast coming up soon.
Thanks for joining us for the Borderless Podcast, traveling, investing, and living beyond borders.